All right, so we're diving into Amsterdam today. We're going to take a look at these two sources you sent, a YouTube travel guide, and then also like a really in-depth written report. And it seems like you're going for a kind of non-touristy, authentic vibe on your trip, which, awesome.
Yeah, it's really interesting because both of the sources, right away, they're moving away from those kind of like cliche Amsterdam things,
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah, we all know about the canals and we know about the red light district, but there's so much more.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
To the city. They're telling us that right away.
Okay, so both of them point to the Jordaan district. The YouTube host was so enthusiastic about this neighborhood, they actually said that if they could only pick one neighborhood to stay in Amsterdam, it would be the Jordaan.
Yeah, what I thought was really interesting about the Jordaan is that it wasn't always this like, kind of trendy, artsy neighborhood.
Right.
The report mentioned that it used to be a working class area.
Yeah.
And you can kind of still see that history in the buildings and the vibe. But now it's full of these independent boutiques and artist studios. And the report was talking about all these cute little cafes that are tucked away in courtyards and stuff.
Oh, that sounds so nice.
Yeah.
So it definitely sounds like a place for travelers who are looking for, that more local feel, a bit of history, and who want to maybe stumble upon some cool, unique finds.
Right.
So if you can picture yourself sipping coffee in a sunny courtyard, surrounded by, like quirky shops and the creative energy of all these artists, the Jordaan might be your spot.
Yeah, it really seems like it could be a cool place to check out.
Okay, and speaking of cool places, did you catch the part about electric Ladyland?
Oh, yeah, the fluorescent art museum.
Yeah, the fluorescent art museum. It sounded so wild from the report, like almost psychedelic.
Yeah, total sensory overload.
Yeah. And then right after that, they talk about this hidden church in an attic.
It's funny how they put those two things right next to each other.
I know.
Like, that's such a contrast.
Yeah.
And, I think it says a lot about Amsterdam as a city. You have this really cutting edge art scene that's totally pushing the boundaries. And at the same time, you have, this reminder of the city's past. When religious freedom, wasn't really a given,
right?
People had to actually hide their faith, building a whole church in an attic just to,
to worship.
Right.
Oh, wow. That's intense.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It really makes you think, what kind of experience are you personally drawn to? That like mind-bending fluorescent art, or the quiet reverence of this like hidden church? I mean, maybe both.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how those different experiences might shape your perception of Amsterdam.
Yeah, totally.
But I guess before we get too deep into that, we should probably talk about how to even get around, right? Because both sources had some pretty strong opinions on that.
Yes. The YouTube person, they were all about the biking. They said more bikes than people in Amsterdam.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the report said that too. It really does seem like bikes are woven into like the fabric of life in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
They have separate bike paths and even bike traffic signals and stuff.
It's crazy.
It's so efficient.
Environmentally friendly, and I mean, let's be honest, super cool.
Right. Okay, so I'm picturing myself like cruising along the canals, with the wind in my hair, feeling like a true local, like I belong.
Yeah, feeling like an Amsterdamer.
Yeah, exactly. But wait, they both suggest going on a canal cruise too.
They do, but they each present a slightly different take.
Oh, okay.
So the video is talking about that more classic touristy kind of canal cruise,
Yeah.
Like where they point out landmarks and give you the history.
Yeah.
But then the report suggests a private boat tour with a local skipper.
Oh.
Which is
Wow.
definitely more expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
But you get like really personalized insights, and you can go down the smaller canals, off the beaten path,
Right.
avoid the huge crowds.
You get to chat with a local, which would be cool.
Are you the type of person who really enjoys the energy of a big group tour? Or do you prefer that more intimate and personalized experience? Or maybe it just depends on your mood for the day.
Yeah, I think it totally depends. There's no right answer.
Right?
It's really about figuring out, what kind of traveler are you and what are you hoping to get out of it?
All right. Okay, makes sense.
Speaking of experiences, let's talk museums.
Oh, yeah.
They both recommend going beyond the really famous ones.
Yes, they totally do. So like instead of going to the Van Gogh Museum, which is obviously amazing but can be so crowded, the report mentioned the Stedelijk Museum.
Yeah, and that one's known for its modern and contemporary art.
Right, and if you're into World War II history, they suggest the Resistance Museum, which is supposed to be less crowded than the Anne Frank House.
Right.
I thought it was interesting that they both really suggest exploring museums that kind of offer a different perspective.
Yeah.
It's like they're encouraging you to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, and to like challenge your assumptions, expand your understanding of things.
I love that.
Yeah,
And speaking of challenging assumptions, the YouTube video said to check out the NDSM Wharf.
Oh, yeah, that used to be a shipyard.
It did, but now it's like this cool artsy area.
With a totally different vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting how they've transformed this former industrial space into like a thriving cultural hub.
Okay, so are we ready to talk about all the free stuff in Amsterdam?
Oh, yeah.
Because they both highlighted a ton of free activities.
So many things you can do for free.
Like free concerts, open-air theater, and just wandering around the gardens at the Rijksmuseum.
The report even said that there's like a free Rijksmuseum at the Schiphol airport.
What?
Yeah. You can get your art fix while you're waiting for your flight.
That's amazing. I love it.
It's really cool.
Okay, so I'm getting hungry just thinking about all the exploring we'll be doing.
Yeah, for sure.
And they had some really good tips on finding delicious food without spending a fortune.
Yes. They both emphasize that if you venture outside the main tourist zones, you're going to find more authentic and affordable food.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The report mentioned a few neighborhoods like De Peep, Amsterdam Oost, and even the Jordaan as being good for that.
The Jordaan again.
Yeah, seems like a good spot for food.
Oh, and then they had this great tip. Look for lunch menus, even at Michelin-starred restaurants.
That's a really good idea.
Right.
Because it's a way more affordable way to experience, a really high-quality meal.
Totally. Okay, I'm curious, what has stood out to you the most so far? Like, what are you feeling most drawn to?
It's hard to choose just one thing, but I think what's intriguing me the most is this idea of uncovering these hidden layers of Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about the Jordaan, the secret church, the alternative museums, the food scene. It's like there's a whole other city beneath the surface just waiting to be discovered.
That's a great way to put it. It's like you have the Amsterdam that everyone knows about from the postcards, and then there's this deeper, more authentic side that you discover through exploration.
Right, and that's what we're trying to do here with this deep dive.
Peeling back the layers and finding those hidden gems that make Amsterdam really special.
I'm excited to see what else we uncover.
Me too. Okay, so we found some really cool hidden gems and alternative experiences in Amsterdam, but I'm curious, did the sources address any of the more like controversial aspects of the city?
That's a really good point. Amsterdam definitely has a reputation for being very liberal, and both sources do mention things that are often kind of debated, like the red light district.
Yeah, the YouTube video kind of just like glossed over it. They focused more on the historical and cultural side of it.
Yeah.
But the report went a little deeper and talked about some of the ethical considerations of, the sex work industry and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was interesting because the report actually presented kind of like different perspectives on it.
Yeah.
Some people see the red light district as like a really important part of Amsterdam's history and its culture.
Yeah.
And they argue that, it actually provides a safe and regulated environment for sex workers.
Right.
But then other people, they're concerned about exploitation.
Yeah.
And they worry about the negative impact it might have on the neighborhood as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a complicated issue.
It is.
With a lot of different perspectives. And it's important to remember that these are real people's lives and livelihoods.
Right.
It's not just a tourist attraction.
Exactly. If you do decide to visit the red light district, it's important to be respectful and to understand the complexities of it all.
Right.
But like both sources said, there's so much more to Amsterdam than just this one area.
Absolutely. Okay, another thing that always comes up with Amsterdam is, the cannabis culture.
Yeah, for sure.
And both sources acknowledge that, cannabis is legal in the Netherlands, but it's not like a total free-for-all.
Yeah.
The YouTube video mentioned that you can only buy and consume cannabis in licensed coffee shops, and there are limits on how much you can buy at once.
Right. And the report went into a little bit more detail and talked about the Dutch government's tolerance policy.
Yeah.
Which basically means that they regulate and control the sale and use of cannabis rather than, making it totally legal.
Yeah, I remember that.
And what I thought was interesting is that, even within the Netherlands, there's still debate about this policy.
Yeah.
Some people argue that, it helps reduce crime, that it protects public health.
Right.
But other people think that it normalizes drug use and it sends a mixed message, especially to young people.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's complicated.
It's complicated. There's no easy answers.
Right.
If you're interested in learning more about this, both sources kind of give you a good starting point for further research.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. But I think for now, let's maybe move on to some more like practical aspects of planning a trip to Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Like budgeting and making the most of your time and all that.
Yeah, they both had some good tips on that. For instance, The YouTube video suggested looking into a city pass, like the Amsterdam city card,
Yeah.
if planning to visit a lot of museums and attractions.
Oh, yeah. The report mentioned that too. And they added that it also includes free canal cruises
Oh, wow.
and discounts on other experiences.
That sounds like a pretty good deal,
Right. If you're going to be doing a lot of sightseeing, it could definitely save you some money.
for sure. And speaking of planning ahead, the report also suggested traveling during the shoulder seasons,
Oh, yeah.
like spring or fall,
Right?
to avoid those, like, huge summer crowds.
Yeah. And maybe even get better prices on accommodations.
Exactly.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, the weather's still pretty nice during those times.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be, crammed in with tons of other tourists everywhere you go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, let's get back to like specific things to do in Amsterdam because both sources mention some of the must-see attractions, but they also offer these really cool alternatives that are maybe a bit less crowded and, more local.
Right, yeah. The report mentioned a couple of those, like Brouwery AAJ, which is a local brewery
Yeah.
that's housed in a former windmill.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
A windmill brewery?
Yeah, so you can, like, sip a locally brewed beer
Wow.
in a windmill.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, and the YouTube video mentioned the Houseboat Museum.
Oh, yeah, where you can actually go inside a houseboat
Yeah.
and see what it's like to live on the canals.
That's so cool. It's like getting a glimpse into a totally different way of life.
Totally.
I'm curious, out of everything we've talked about so far, what are you most excited to experience in Amsterdam?
That's tough. There's so much cool stuff. But I think what I'm most drawn to is this idea of experiencing the city from a local's perspective. Like we've talked about the Jordaan, the hidden church, the alternative museums, the food, even the cannabis culture. It's like we're piecing together a puzzle to get this deeper, more nuanced understanding of what Amsterdam is really like.
I totally agree. It's like we're going beyond the tourist facade and getting to the heart and soul of the city.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited to see what other insights we find in the final part of our deep dive. And I feel like we've uncovered so many hidden gems, explored all these alternative perspectives, and I think now it's time to bring it all together, right? How do we take all this knowledge and transform it into an amazing trip?
Yeah, totally. And both sources actually had some really practical tips on how to do just that.
Yeah.
Remember they both really emphasized that idea of spontaneity.
Yeah, they both said, just wander, let the city surprise you. It's so easy to overplan a trip and have this whole itinerary.
Yeah.
But sometimes the best moments happen when you just, kind of let go a little bit and see where you end up.
Absolutely. And speaking of getting around,
Yeah.
we talked about this before, but Amsterdam is such a walkable city. They have a great public transport system.
Yeah.
But honestly, for that truly authentic experience, you got to rent a bike.
Yeah, I can picture it now, zipping through those little streets, feeling the energy of the city. It's like a completely different way to experience it.
It really is. And while you're doing all that exploring, remember those free things we talked about?
Right.
Like free concerts, open air theater, the gardens. So much you can do without spending any money.
That's awesome, especially for people, traveling on a budget. And speaking of embracing that local culture, I remember the report mentioned this word, Gazelligheid.
Oh yeah, Gazelligheid. It's hard to translate. It's more of a feeling than a direct word.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that warm, cozy feeling you get when you're in a really welcoming atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like a candlelit cafe or
yeah.
a bustling pub,
Yeah.
or even just hanging out with friends, sharing a moment.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember the report suggested finding a cozy cafe and just soaking up the Gazelligheid.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds so lovely.
Just relax, enjoy the atmosphere.
Yeah, and maybe even strike up a conversation with some locals.
Oh yeah, for sure. Both sources mention that Dutch people are generally very friendly and welcoming.
Yeah.
So, even if you just learn a few basic Dutch phrases,
Right.
it shows that you're making an effort.
Totally. Okay, and no trip to Amsterdam would be complete without trying some traditional Dutch food.
Oh, for sure.
Stroopwafels, bitterballen, herring, all that good stuff. Although I have to admit, I'm a little scared of the herring.
It's an acquired taste.
Yeah, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. It's all about, being open to new experiences, right?
Exactly. And speaking of new experiences, I think it's important to remember that Amsterdam is a city that's constantly changing.
Yeah.
Both sources mention that. They're always reinventing themselves.
Yeah, it's like they have this energy, this drive to stay ahead of the curve while also, honoring their history.
Right. So as you plan your trip, just remember to be open to the unexpected.
Right.
Follow your curiosity and create your own Amsterdam story.
That's a great way to put it. So go forth, explore, experience the magic of Amsterdam, and we would love to hear about it. Share your stories with us, your aha moments, those unexpected insights that make your trip truly personal.
Because that's what travel is all about, right?
Yeah.
Connecting with new places, new people, new perspectives.
Absolutely. Until next time, fellow adventurers.